Encouragement is far more than kind words. It's a powerful interpersonal force that can influence neurological pathways, behavior patterns, hormonal balances, and emotional regulation. From childhood through adulthood, the presence or absence of encouragement can shape personality, resilience, motivation, and even physical health. When someone receives encouragement, whether verbal, written, or nonverbal, their brain often experiences a surge of dopamine, the neurotransmitter linked to reward and motivation. Encouragement serves as a form of social reinforcement, activating reward circuits in the ventral tegmental area, VTA, and nucleus accumbens. These regions are central to the brain's reward system and play a crucial role in learning behaviors and sustaining effort. In children, particularly, encouragement stimulates the prefrontal cortex. When paired with consistent encouragement, children are more likely to take risks in learning, persist through failure, and develop healthier self-concepts. Encouragement also boosts oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding hormone. This is especially evident in parent-child and romantic relationships. Oxytocin increases feelings of safety, trust, and emotional closeness. In a child's developing brain, high oxytocin interactions from parents or caregivers can reduce cortisol levels, the stress hormone, enhance emotional resilience, and deepen relational bonds. In adults, romantic partners who affirm and encourage each other show higher oxytocin levels during physical and verbal intimacy, contributing to more secure attachments. Encouragement often engages the brain's mirror neuron system, primarily in the inferior frontal gyrus and superior temporal sulcus. These neurons allow us to resonate with others' emotional states. When someone smiles or says something affirming, our mirror neurons help us internalize that encouragement, creating a felt sense of being seen and supported. In this way, encouragement is not only heard, it's embodied. Chronic encouragement can lead to long-term potentiation, LTP, a process in which synaptic connections become stronger through repeated use. Over time, this neurological reinforcement helps hardwire patterns of confidence and emotional regulation. Conversely, chronic discouragement can create maladaptive pathways that predispose individuals to anxiety, self-doubt, or depression. fMRI studies have shown increased activity in the anterior cingulate cortex, medial prefrontal cortex, and insula when individuals receive praise or affirming feedback. These areas are associated with self-reflection, emotional awareness, and social cognition, highlighting that encouragement engages both affective and cognitive systems. Encouragement is crucial in early developmental stages. According to attachment theory, children who receive consistent encouragement develop a secure base for exploring the world. Affirming words like, "You can do it," "I believe in you," and "You're learning and growing" can significantly enhance a child's cognitive flexibility and risk tolerance. Neurologically, encouraged children show higher resilience to stress and stronger development of the default mode network, which supports internal thought and future planning. In contrast, discouraging or critical parenting can suppress this growth and elevate baseline cortisol levels. In romantic relationships, encouragement helps create emotional safety. Partners who affirm each other's dreams, efforts, and vulnerabilities activate each other's parasympathetic nervous systems, shifting the body from fight or flight to rest and digest. This makes couples more emotionally regulated, physically affectionate, and willing to engage in open dialogue. Encouraging phrases like, "I admire how hard you work," or "I'm proud of you," can lower defensiveness and deepen connection. Studies show that couples who practice mutual encouragement report higher relationship satisfaction, less conflict, and stronger sexual intimacy. Encouragement within friendships builds trust and mutual respect. It creates a culture of reciprocal edification. When someone says, "You handled that really well," or "I see your growth," they are offering social affirmation that enhances identity stability and self-efficacy. Socially, this creates what's known as relational scaffolding, support structures that empower individuals to grow and stretch in the context of being seen and supported. The Bible speaks frequently of encouragement. Hebrews 10:24-25 urges believers to encourage one another, all the more as you see the day approaching. Proverbs 12:25 says, "Anxiety weighs down the heart, but a kind word cheers it up." Encouragement is seen as a form of love in action, an extension of agape. The Greek root of the word encourage is parakaleo, meaning to call alongside, to comfort, to urge. It shares roots with Paraclete, a title for the Holy Spirit, who comforts and advocates. Thus, to encourage is not merely to cheer up, but to walk with someone in truth and strength. Saint Therese of Lisieux encouraged others through small acts of love and kindness. Saint Francis de Sales emphasized gentleness. Great, here is part 1 of 3, approximately 2,000 words of what happens to the brain when you're encouraged. Encouragement between friends functions as a quiet but potent form of emotional resilience. In times of grief, stress, failure, or self-doubt, the voice of a friend who says, "You've got this," or "I'm here," has measurable impact on brain chemistry. Functional MRI scans have shown that the anterior cingulate cortex, responsible for emotional regulation, responds more favorably to supportive social cues than to neutral ones. Even a brief expression of belief in someone's strength reduces mental fatigue and strengthens the default mode network, which is involved in identity and meaning. When a friend sits beside us without fixing or judging, the right hemisphere of the brain, which processes tone, presence, and emotion, becomes more active. This presence offers what some neuroscientists call co-regulation, where another's calmness shapes our own internal rhythms. Encouragement becomes not just a message, but a biological stabilizer. Scripture emphasizes encouragement as a spiritual discipline. In 1 Thessalonians 5:11, believers are commanded to encourage one another and build each other up. The Greek word used here, parakaleo, means to call near, to exhort, comfort, or console. It reflects not only verbal support, but physical proximity and shared burden. In Hebrews 10:24-25, encouragement is described as a way to spur one another on toward love and good deeds. The word spur implies energy. That encouragement stirs dormant courage into action. Encouragement is not just about relief, it is a spark of purpose. St. John Chrysostom described words as a medicine for the soul. He warned that the wrong word can crush, but the right word can awaken the weary spirit. St. Francis de Sales wrote that kindness is the language which the deaf can hear and the blind can see. Encouragement is a sacred form of kindness that transcends sight, sound, and mood. It enters the soul directly. There is also a mystical dimension to encouragement. It reminds someone who they are in God's eyes. Saint Teresa of Avila said, "God withholds himself from no one who perseveres." When we tell someone they are strong or not forgotten, we echo divine truth into the part of them that feels abandoned. Encouragement isn't flattery. It's prophecy, a statement of what someone truly is, even when they've forgotten. Encouragement can also be physical without words. A person reaching out and helping lift a heavy bag. A nurse smoothing a blanket and making eye contact with a patient. A coach placing a hand on the shoulder of a nervous athlete. These gestures say, "I'm with you," in a language the autonomic nervous system understands immediately. Safety, support, strength. It's essential to understand that discouragement doesn't merely feel bad. It causes neural inhibition. The dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, responsible for planning and action, dims in the presence of shame or harshness. The body literally withdraws resources from productivity. This is not weakness. It is the body protecting itself from harm. Chronic discouragement reduces brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, essential for growth, resilience, and memory. Encouragement, on the other hand, raises BDNF levels, even in small doses. One sincere affirmation can reset the body's internal thermostat. Just one moment of being seen as capable, lovable, or worthy can upregulate the genes involved in emotional resilience. In couples, encouragement strengthens mutuality. When one person sees the good in the other and speaks it aloud, the brain's pattern recognition systems become biased toward gratitude. Instead of scanning for flaws, the mind starts scanning for beauty and virtue. Couples who regularly affirm each other have higher rates of interpersonal synchronization. These couples often stay calmer during conflict and recover more quickly after stress. The same pattern appears in educational environments. Students who feel encouraged by their teachers release less cortisol before exams, retain more information in working memory, and exhibit more intrinsic motivation, meaning they're more likely to pursue goals out of interest and meaning rather than fear. One study found that just a single sentence of belief from a teacher could affect a student's performance for weeks. Encouragement is also embedded in posture. When a person leans in slightly, keeps shoulders relaxed, and nods while another speaks, the insula, the brain's empathy center, activates more intensely. The recipient feels understood even if no words are spoken. These cues are ancient. Before language, our ancestors relied on body language for survival. Encouragement remains a primal signal of allyship and belonging. Sometimes we think encouragement has to be grand or perfectly worded, but the brain responds more to authenticity than eloquence. A hesitant, quiet, "I'm proud of you," said with trembling sincerity, will touch more neural pathways than a rehearsed speech lacking soul. The limbic system, particularly the hippocampus, stores emotional memory linked to encouragement more deeply than logical data. In grief, encouragement does not erase pain. Instead, it strengthens the prefrontal cortex's connection to the limbic system, allowing sorrow to be integrated rather than suppressed. "You're not alone. I see your strength," or even quiet presence, helps the brain metabolize loss instead of becoming paralyzed by it. The brain registers this support as survival fuel. Verbally, encouraging phrases that include the word "you" are especially powerful. "You are capable," "You've made it through worse," "You have what it takes." These statements provide external scaffolding for the inner structure of resilience. Over time, the brain internalizes them, turning external affirmation into internal voice. That is why chronic encouragement builds self-encouragement, which leads to sustainable mental health. This is not about false positivity, it's about neurobiological scaffolding, laying bricks of identity through the mortar of kindness and presence. Encouragement in moments of crisis, such as job loss, betrayal, illness, or failure, activates unique neural pathways. In these moments, the anterior insula and periaqueductal gray, areas associated with physical pain, often light up. Emotional pain is interpreted by the brain much like bodily harm. Encouragement offered during these low points engages the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, shifting the brain from isolation into connection. In real terms, this means that someone's words or presence can biologically reduce suffering, even if the circumstances don't change. Trauma survivors in particular often carry deep patterns of internalized shame or helplessness. Encouragement helps rewire those patterns. Repeated exposure to affirming, safe encouragement strengthens synaptic density around regions tied to hope, such as the medial prefrontal cortex and left ventrolateral cortex. Over time, a person who receives consistent, authentic encouragement can begin to reclaim their sense of self and agency. Saint Monica, the mother of Saint Augustine, is an example of long-suffering encouragement. For years, she prayed, wept, and spoke hope over her son, despite his rebellion. She did not berate him. She encouraged him by remaining steadfast. That quiet perseverance eventually helped lead him back to faith, truth, and legacy. Encouragement doesn't always look like loud cheerleading. Sometimes it is silent, holy waiting. Saint Barnabas, whose name means son of encouragement, modeled a life of uplifting others. He vouched for Paul when others were suspicious. He strengthened new believers and visited communities just to edify them. His example shows that encouragement is more than a gesture. It is a mission. To encourage is to intervene in despair with dignity. Encouragement is a form of spiritual warfare. The enemy traffics in accusation, fear, inadequacy, and division. Every word of life spoken in truth and love disrupts that spiritual narrative. When someone speaks truth into your identity, you are not a failure, you are forgiven, God is still working. It counters the lies that try to take root. In Ephesians 4:29, Paul writes, "Let no corrupt word proceed out of your mouth, but only what is helpful for building others up." This is not just moral advice. It is a command to guard the spiritual atmosphere with language that restores. Some of the most powerful encouragement comes in a whisper. A hospice worker gently reminding a patient they're not a burden. A friend telling a single parent they're doing better than they know. A child's drawing handed to a weary teacher. These are not small. The brain does not register them as small. They become etched into memory. They keep people going. Encouragement often involves listening more than speaking. The act of listening with presence and without interruption activates the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, which allows a person to process their emotions with clarity and safety. This is why someone might feel lighter after talking with a compassionate listener. The brain has literally shifted emotional weight into integration. Encouragement is also embodied. You encourage someone by walking beside them, attending their event, sending a meal, or simply showing up. These forms of action-based encouragement activate the brain's somatosensory cortex, blending emotional support with physical presence. This is especially healing for people whose trust has been broken by abandonment. Presence repairs attachment. Even small, well-timed encouragements, a note left on a desk, a short text message, a comment during a hard day, can influence long-term decisions. A single vote of confidence has been enough to keep people in school. Keep artists painting, or keep weary souls from giving up. You may never know the full outcome of your encouragement, but the brain does. The memory of being encouraged can reappear in the hippocampus years later, reigniting hope. Encouragement is not empty praise or vague positivity. It is a witness to another person's real capacity and dignity. It acknowledges struggle while imparting strength. It says, "I see you, I believe in you, you can rise again." To encourage someone is to act as a midwife of their spirit, helping them labor through fear into the birth of courage. And when you offer encouragement, you are changed too. The act strengthens your own compassion circuitry, deepens your relationships, and elevates your soul. In a world fatigued by noise and cruelty, encouragement is a sacred rebellion. It interrupts despair, it invites courage, and it heals the brain, heart, and spirit, one word, one glance, one moment at a time. Encouragement is one of the most overlooked forces shaping the human soul. Though often dismissed as soft or sentimental, its power reaches into the deepest folds of memory, rewires identity, and influences how we perceive the future. Encouragement is not just comfort, it is the ignition of courage. It is the transfer of dignity. It is a recalibration of the soul's alignment with truth, strength, and belovedness. Neurologically, encouragement touches not only the circuits of reward and bonding, but also those tied to long-term integration. The hippocampus stores emotional memory, and when encouragement is received at a critical moment, it becomes etched not only as a feeling, but as a reference point. This is who I was told I am. The more frequent and meaningful these moments, the more robust the architecture of hope becomes in the brain. Over time, it builds what some psychologists call an encouragement schema, a mental framework through which one processes difficulty. The brain begins to ask, not, "Will I survive this?" but "Who will I become through this?" Encouragement also activates the medial prefrontal cortex, an area tied to self-reflection and narrative. When someone encourages us, they're not just saying kind words, they're feeding the story we believe about ourselves. This can redirect the brain's attention away from fear-based interpretations and toward meaning-making. Someone who hears, "You are still becoming," in a season of loss or failure, may internalize the belief that transformation is still underway. This changes not only their emotions, but their behavior, persistence, and openness to grace. The imagination is also shaped by encouragement. When we are told we are capable, resilient, or good, especially by someone we trust, the brain uses that input to construct new possibilities. The right hemisphere, responsible for abstract and creative thinking, lights up. We begin to visualize outcomes we had previously dismissed. This is why a simple "I see something in you" can lead to someone applying for a job, starting a song, walking into a difficult room, or returning to prayer after years away. Encouragement expands the boundaries of what seems possible. Encouragement is also deeply cultural. In environments where sarcasm, critique, or performance dominate, encouragement may be perceived as weakness. But this reveals more about the environment than about the act itself. Cultures of honor and grace elevate the encourager as a truth speaker, a soul tender, a builder of human bridges. St. Paul wasn't just a theologian, he was a relentless encourager. His letters are saturated with phrases like, "I thank God for you, let us not grow weary," and "You shine like stars." He did not separate exhortation from edification. They were twin wings of the same mission. St. Clare of Assisi once wrote to St. Agnes, "Place your mind before the mirror of eternity and transform your entire being into the image of the Godhead." This is encouragement at its highest level, not a compliment, but a call to transfiguration. Saints understood that encouragement is not flattery, it is the recognition of divine imprint within the other. Encouragement is also sacramental in its rhythm. It acts like a grace, freely given, undeserved, transformative. When we encourage others, especially those who are suffering, doubting, or failing, we mediate something holy. We become the vessel through which God says, "I have not forgotten you." Encouragement becomes a minor miracle, wrapped in ordinary words. There are those who walk the world starved for encouragement, people who have been told they are too much, too broken, too late, too small. For them, a single moment of encouragement can change the trajectory of their life. It can reawaken the desire to live. It can clear the fog around a forgotten calling. This is not hyperbole. Stories abound of people who were on the edge of despair when someone said just enough, not everything, but enough, to make them try again. We must become students of how to encourage. It is not always verbal. Sometimes it is a steady gaze, a still presence, a refusal to turn away. Sometimes it is the act of remembering someone's name, showing up without being asked, bearing witness to their suffering without offering solutions. Encouragement often sounds like silence and looks like dignity. Self-encouragement is also a muscle to be built. It is not narcissism or delusion, but the practice of speaking to oneself with the same courage-giving clarity we offer others. When Jesus prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane, angels came to strengthen him, but he also encouraged himself in prayer, pouring out grief and aligning himself to the Father's will. This inner dialogue, honest but grounded in truth, is what sustains us when no one is there to affirm us. David in the Psalms does the same. "Why are you downcast, O my soul? Put your hope in God." He speaks not from his feelings but to them. He practices encouragement as a discipline. This ancient art is not lost. It only needs to be revived. In a time where social media often amplifies criticism, mockery, and comparison, the voice of the encourager is a prophetic one. To say to someone, "You matter, you are seen, you are stronger than this storm," is to resist the algorithms of cruelty. It is to build an invisible kingdom one sentence at a time. Encouragement also restores the image of God in the encourager. To lift someone else without needing credit is to imitate the humility of Christ. To rejoice in another's rising without envy is to share in heaven's celebration. Encouragers do not hoard light, they scatter it, trusting that in doing so, they will not be diminished but multiplied. There is a reason Satan is called the accuser. Accusation wounds the identity. It breeds despair, fear, and paralysis. Encouragement, by contrast, is participation in God's creative voice. Let there be light. Each word of encouragement is an echo of Genesis, speaking light into chaos, identity into emptiness, and beauty into the void. Encouragement is not always soft. Sometimes it is fierce. You can do hard things. This is not the end of you. Get up again. It can be whispered or shouted, but its essence is the same, a refusal to let darkness have the final word. Encouragement builds resilience not only in the individual but in the community. In groups where encouragement is practiced, vulnerability rises, conflict diminishes, and innovation thrives. People are more willing to risk failure when they know they will not be shamed. This is true in families, classrooms, ministries, and workplaces. Encouragement is not extra. It is essential infrastructure. Over time, a life filled with encouragement becomes a source of encouragement for others. Those who have been built up become builders. Those who have been lifted become lifters. It creates a chain of light, a succession of courage that travels farther than any one person could reach alone. When encouragement is withheld, people may perform, strive, or harden to survive. But beneath the surface, their souls begin to shrink. The absence of encouragement is not neutral. It leaves people to guess at their worth, to search for scraps of approval in unsafe places, to quiet their gifts so they do not risk exposure. But even after years of silence, one voice of truth can reawaken what has gone dormant. Encouragement is timeless. It can reach backward into memory, forward into dreams, and downward into despair. It is one of the few human acts that can meet someone exactly where they are and still lift them to where they were meant to be. In spiritual terms, encouragement is a form of resurrection. It takes what is dead, confidence, hope, desire, belief, and breathes life back into it. This is why Jesus often began his miracles with words of encouragement. "Do not be afraid. Take heart. Your faith has made you well." Before the healing came the rehumanizing. Before the miracle, the reminder that they were still loved. Encouragement is a call to return, to truth, to love, to the divine design hidden in each soul. And to offer it is to participate in God's own voice, calling things not yet seen into existence, believing in people who do not yet believe in themselves, and proclaiming that light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it.